Uh, so, all right.
Okay, sorry, Kahu.
Okay, you almost ready? Yours
Okay,
looks better
sorry.
than mine. My place is all messy.
Yeah.
My bed is behind me.
Well, at least we know we can see each other when we talk, Kahu.
Yeah. Yeah. So, aloha everyone. This is Kahu Rennie Mao, and this is
I'm Tarita Tehotu.
right. And we are doing this recording here because we want to let people know about the PIWAI Virtual Summit that's coming up in April. And some people are wondering, what is the PIWAI? Well, the PIWAI stands for the Pacific Islander Worship Arts Institute. And it was started back in 2002. And every year from that time that we started it, we had a huike, a gathering of Christian arts groups that did singing or dancing, mostly, dancing, indigenous worship. And we got together on Maui to share. And at the same time that we started, there was another group that started at the Saddleback Church called the Shared Aloha. So we kind of had parallel histories. But anyway, we're going to have a virtual huike the week of April 15th to the 22nd.
Oh.
And that means that from your computer or your TV, if you have your computer hooked up to your TV, you can actually participate and watch the summit. Every day there will be different videos posted, and it will conclude with the huike where we'll have all different various groups share their talents and their gifts and be a time of worship. So from New Zealand to Tahiti to Hawaii to Samoa, Islands, and people on the mainland. And some of the recordings will be pre-recorded. I think all of it will be pre-recorded, and we're just linking it all together so people can see each other. So I wanted to do this video with Tarita this morning to kind of give you a little heads up on it for the week of April 15th to 22nd.
Well, I think, Kahu, what is really excited is that the most amazing thing is how we got connected in Tahiti. And one of the things that I just really felt that before I left Hawaii to go back to Tahiti, one of the things that we were doing was hula. And one of the things that God has spoke to us personally was that the hula avana was really, really beautiful, but we felt that God wanted us to do the hula kahiko. We didn't really understand a whole bunch then at that time, but that is when we had the most resistance because a lot of people believe that those dances and that the hula kahiko was actually from the enemy. And there was nothing, there was no value in doing that. However, how God spoke to us personally was actually to go back at God's original intent. And so doing the steps of the king in our gehi and our ancient steps, it made it personal for us. It was personal for us. However, when I did come back to Hawaii and I was traveling, while I met you, Kahu, I was still traveling, going to the mainland and teaching hula kahiko. And it was something that was new, but nothing's new under the sun. It was just, people were curious, how could I be teaching the hula kahiko and base it on the word of God? And so I came up with a program. I don't know if you could call it a program, but I needed a guideline, and I called it the Warrior Bride. And at God's original intent, this is what he originally created us for, not just only to worship. And it just took pieces of biblical foundation on worship and our identity, who we are. So I could not go out and dance the hula kahiko in any other way. However, when I did come to Hawaii, majority of the people were dancing the hula avana using Christian songs and calling it Christian hula. And so I was like, huh, what is that? And you know, I had an attitude because I also said, and I think I mentioned this to you, Kahu, as well, hula is not a last name. And so how can you say that? This is just, that was my personal. And so what I did realize and asking God, and I was a lot more critical than I am today, because God has opened my brains to much more than what he is at the now moment. No opportunity wasted right now. But back then, there were many who were doing hula, the hula awana, and then calling it hula, but they were using other movements, such as sign, and calling it hula. And majority of them, we found out later, I think you and I and some other people did research, many of them will come to us and said, I was never taught hula. I just expressed myself.
Yeah, they just watch a video and they follow.
Yes. And so that was, okay, so I was like, and that really provoked me, because if we, it provoked me to be more open to not just only to share, but as an equiper to equip them of what they didn't know. And the olelo was very important, because that's something that we can declare, we can decree, we decree and declare, we prophesy, we speak, there's so much things that you could do with your olelo. And so what happened was many of them didn't know their olelo. And the one thing that we encourage them to do is, there's not too many people. There's different dialects. Oh no, you're saying it wrong. Or say you're saying this and that. Just take it out from the biblical, from the Baibala Himolele, and just do it accordingly. That's all you have to do. Just do it accordingly to what the verses say. Take it out, grab it. I remember we've had a lot of keiki out of just doing this and working hand in hand with them. And usually we don't share, because in the hula world, you come from a genealogy. And so one of the things that the Lord had showed us was how can they know without hearing? How can it not be taught? So if you're not going to share what God has given to us, then we are going to continue to see what we've seen. And I believe that from that time on, there was many of us that God put in our hearts to not see it start from the middle. We really had a desire for to take people back to their God's original intent for their identity. And so it went back to the hula kahiko, taught them that, and the great kumukahi, and just use everything that the enemy took and redeemed it back. And it didn't go without a cost though. And maybe our names were smeared a little bit. What is she doing? What is he doing? What are they doing? And so I've noticed that how the enemy just tries to do and stir up against the brethren. And it became a competition. And it just burdened my heart to say, okay, if this is a competition, then what's happening? But we are we're the king's kids. So how can we become competitive? Well, there's nothing competition in this. But when the Lord says to the Samaritan woman, you goes up to the mountain and you worship things that you don't know, but we worship in spirit and in truth. And those are the things that, how are we going to bring the people into their own identity, to have them really grasp on to their culture, not the part of the culture, but the culture. But at God's original intent, it was not cultic. It was for the one true God. So
right. So I think what we're trying to do, is to bring together groups that have been doing indigenous worship, using their art forms. Now, some people, like Tarita may think it's cultic because we're using these old forms, or they feel that it's not Christian enough. I don't know what that means nowadays. and or maybe because it's all in Olelo or the native languages. It's not in English, and they always want to have an explanation of what it is. So we're going back now, you know, and it didn't start with us because it goes back a long time. Because back in 2005, when I received the Lily Endowment and I got to travel, that's how I got to meet Tarita. I was traveling in the whole South Pacific for 4 months, trying to find people in churches, connect with people in churches who were worshiping using their native art forms. And in almost every country that I went to, I was told there's nobody. The traditional Protestant churches would say there's nobody doing that. And it was like at first for trying to find a needle in a haystack, but you know what? There were people worshiping using their culture, and they were doing incredible stuff. And that's how I found Tarita and others. And then I also found out like the Catholic Church was more advanced than us, because they were in their services. They were using the Kahu drums. They were using the instruments. They were using dance, and even the regalia. I don't want to say costume, but the regalia or their clothes. And it was just, it kind of really blew me away. So I feel that some of us, sometimes those of us who live in Hawaii, I got this when I was in the South Pacific, because people thought hula was the ultimate dance form. But boy, you really get an eye opener when you travel in other Pacific countries, that we have to take that ego out of the Hawaiian part of it, because the other dance forms are just as beautiful and sometimes even more special. And in fact, talking about competition, you know, there's a couple kumus that I know who says they'll never participate in Merry Monarch because hula is not about competition. And I remember showing the Merry Monarch videos when I was traveling through Samoa and New Zealand and stuff. And almost always the response I got when people watched it was like, okay, so, because they said for them it's a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It's really,
and it really is.
Yeah, they live their dance, they live their culture.
It really was a lifestyle. Even taking from Uncle Henry Pa, who unfortunately passed away when I was young, and actually he was my very first kumu. But just that short time that we had with him, and then we were passed over. So when you're passed over, we got passed over to Auntie Wakale, and then we got passed over to Uncle George Naope, and then we got, Uncle George Holokai, and then you get passed over to Sissy, and then you get passed over and passed over and passed over and passed over. But when you have that root foundation of who you are and where you know where you come from and that root, it would be hard. Could you see me hip hopping? I would never know how to hip hop. I can have that gesture, but would I know what steps to take? No, and it wasn't me. So for us to really look at in Hawaii, to really look at beyond our reefs, what is it that God is doing beyond? And, you know, in Polynesia, being the tip of the arrow geographically, if he was to flip it upside down, Kahu, you know where it would be. But I want to say that because when you're going into the culture part of that, many people, so Hawaii is so Americanized that the mindset is just, okay, we have to do this. You can't do this, and you have to do this, and it has to be just so. But even that is almost like a replacement theology kind of thing. But if you look at what God has called them to worship in spirit and in truth, and how they use and express their worship.
I think sometimes I've heard it, I don't know if it's a reason or an excuse, but sometimes people say, well, we've redeemed the hula, so we can do anything we want with it. And
take it out of it as well.
Yeah, and I don't think that's, you know, you cannot just take anything from hula, and I don't mean by redeem, by just dance it whatever way you want. So Tarita, you can maybe explain more what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and so there are certain steps out of respect. There are certain steps that God has given to us for ha'a, hula, which is ha'a, which actually is ha'a. To us, as the covenant or the indigenous or the native Kanaka of OEB of this land, is given that to us. And sometimes people will come in and they watch the video, they take it, and they just learn just a little, and they go and they grab it, and they do their own thing. And that is what I call expressive hula, or more sort of carbon copy of what they want to do and how they think. However, Kahu, when you have things done like that, and you go out to the world and share it, and you say, these are the dances of Hawaii. And when you see a Kanaka look at that, it was like, really? Where did they get that from? So it gets personal to us because now it changes our identity. That's not who we are. That's not our identity of who we are. So if you just kind of swing to the right and you know, so with
it's
that.
It's kind of like when people do signing. And
yes.
people who are deaf go, what the heck are they doing?
Exactly. And actually, I think we had one of your things that I did share, because one person was saying, well, you know, I think we can sign and do interpretive. I said, really? Do you call that signing? Now, if I was to bring a person that signs to come over here and watch you do that, do you think that person will understand? And the answer to me was no. So we can't even call it signing if it's not properly done, because now you're taking out this, and I get it, it's interpretation, then call it interpretation, but don't call it a signing. And so if you're going to use hula with English words, then you can call it hapahaole hula, because that's our identity. Hapahaole is half Hawaiian, so you're going to do half Hawaiian with English using the hula, and that hula would be awana. You can never use I wouldn't say you can never, but it wouldn't just settle right. Well, for me, and maybe for a lot it would, but for me, many others are trying to do a hula kahiko in English with English words. How am I going? You know, those are just my expressions. Okay, so please forgive me, but those are where we have come so far in the world, where people has literally used hula, and it really was at one point the tip of the arrow to go out and be used throughout all the nations. However, it was also ripped apart and taken apart, and this is the reason why, Kahu, many of the kumuhula that is out there that have their own halal, so they will look at the believers and look at them and say, you're dancing our dances, you're dancing hula, and that's not the steps of the original steps. Those are not, I mean, for those who have just taken out of context, they've come so enraged with that because it has taken, they have modified it. And so that's another story. But however, could you imagine that if every single kumu was to get saved and have an encounter with the one true God, how many people's lives would be changed if that happened? And so there's a verse in Peter that says that they would give glory to the Lord for the very things they mock us from. And I'll get it. I just don't have it with me right now. But would that not be such a great thing if that would happen? So I think doing it, not just only correctly, but doing it unto the Lord makes a big impact, not only unto the one true God, but to the people who our God has given the dances to. That makes a big
yeah. So what we're going to be doing now that whole week, there will be it's going to be the same time that it's a Christian Heritage Week of Hawaii. So there'll be every day there'll be different videos posted that you can come to our website. It would also be posted on the Facebook website as well. And then we're welcoming churches or ministry groups that want to share their dance. Not only hula now, we're talking about Samoan, Cook Islands, Tahitian. I mean, Native American, anything. The only thing that we have that I put on our sign up form and you'll see a link to the sign up form below this video, is that each group must agree to the Apostles' Creed. Because it's not really, it's not an interfaith thing where we have different religious groups participate in. It is definitely what we would call traditional Christianity in terms of the Apostles' Creed. So this is it for now. I mean, this is just a tidbit of what Tarita and I are talking about. And you're going to get to hear from different people from around the world that we'll be talking story with. And if you would like to participate, if you have something that you would like to share, email me too, and maybe put it on. We're hoping to, it's not only, it's not to just separate dance out, because dance is really integrated with everything else. So we're talking about music, art, singing. I mean, can you imagine if I really would like to challenge us to come up with a new hymnal, for instance.
Yes.
New hymnal of all original songs from Hawaii in Hawaiian. So, we can have English in there too, but wouldn't it be interesting that you start seeing our groups dance to our original? Because all these other groups, there's nothing wrong with it, but I can tell you as a producer that when you do songs from Hillsong or whatever, that you can't technically videotape it because
they belong to somebody
else that come from companies here in the publishers here in the United States that they will either charge you or say that you have no right to videotape or use. You're not even supposed to use it in worship. Yes. So anyway,
well, with that, Kahu, in the Olelo, when you bring back those songs, you are actually learning how to speak it, learning how to share it, learning the meaning, the English meaning, and that will bring back our Olelo as well. And so how do you get these people to understand? And everybody has their own interpretation. So I'm excited to see how God is using other people, what talents God is using in them. And this is not a competition. It's not like, oh, I didn't agree with or what she said, I didn't agree with that. Mom said that was my own personal experience. And Kawakahiko at the Ancient of Days, why would I use the Ancient of One? Because he gave it to us. The Ancient of Days. He is the Ancient of Days. He's the great Kumukai. And so, many people do not understand that. And even doing the aparima, in the Tahitian dances. I mean, we went to Maui. We've taught that. The kids did really great. Unfortunately, some things happened. So there are people's opinions will come out, and that's not what we're all about. We're all about a solution. How do we get this?
So it's really about working together. We're not here to pull down other people or anything. Yesterday, I was invited to Kumemia schools early Monday morning, the day after Easter, and they had their Easter worship service together with the high schoolers. And I was kind of really blown away. I wish I could show the video that I took, but they have a school policy at Kamehameha that you can't put any of their videos or pictures of the kids on YouTube or social media. But their halau came out and they danced the Lord's Prayer in Hawaiian. It was just so beautiful. Maybe I can ask the school somehow to get some kind of recording to share during the virtual summit. But it was just done so well, and the smiles and expressions on the kids, just really wonderful.
And if you had this other generation, 2 generations before us, that was totally kapu. You just don't dance the Lord's Prayer, you pray it. But, with the expression of it being worship and again, decreeing and declaring our Father, it must have been just so powerful.
Yeah, it was.
And beautiful at the same time. It's definitely a now moment right now, Kahu, where no opportunity is wasted. And, I'm going to be praying that people who watch this, when others come on, that the Holy Spirit would just speak to them and that they would feel His anointing through whatever God's going to have you do. God bless you, because this is not an easy thing to do. And
Yeah. And I'm sure that, and you and I are probably used to this already, that by putting this virtual summit together, we're going to get criticized and think we're doing, you know what? I'm going to tell you right now that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be glossy. It could be glossy. We could put a lot of money into it and produce it a certain way, but that's not what it's about. It's just about sharing.
yeah.
You know?
Well, and God's going to get the glory on all of this. We're going to be honored to where honors due, and those that want to participate, then that's fine. And you know, I believe every participant will honor the Lord, and I think that would be, it will be okay if they don't want to do it. But what would be great is to how many people can be touched by this, non-believers and believers. So that's the exciting part of that. And
I did want to say before we close is that right now I'm just scheduling it as a virtual event every year. So just, you know what, it's almost 2 weeks after Mary Monner. So we kind of doing it virtually, which just means that it's just going to be broadcast on the internet. But the goal is in 2022 is to have the real event, physical event in Tahiti, and bring all the groups together in Tahiti.
yes.
And I know that's one of our dreams together, to bring people together in Tahiti at that place. What do you call that place downtown? That
Vayete.
yeah.
Vayete. Well, we're looking forward. We'll be back in Tahiti at the end of this month in April, and we are looking forward to bringing that forth again. And one of the visions why God returned us to Tahiti was to actually have a gathering there. And in 2004 there was a gathering, and so there's another gathering that's coming together in worshiping the one true God in spirit and in truth. I'm excited. In the ends of the earth. Yeah.
All right. So those of you who would like to participate, put it on your radar. Look for the link, April 15th to 21st, and then the actual huike of the various dance ministries from different countries will be up on the 21st. And if you like to participate, sign the form below.
Yes.
Any
I
questions?
haven't signed it yet, Kahu, sorry.
Yeah, but you know, and it doesn't have to be glossy. When you go film your ministry, just use a cell phone. Just, you know, kind of do it that way, and upload it to an unlisted link on YouTube.
And make it
when you do
fun.
that, what's going to happen? There's two things that happens. If it's copyrighted, the songs, YouTube will tell you.
Yes.
And this is what I really like about the way YouTube does it now. They actually will put the copyright okay on it. We did this with some songs, New Hope, for instance, and New Hope got the whoever was the songwriter was credited, and the link to where to buy that music is there. So I think it's kind of a way it kind of works together. I think in the beginning people didn't want their songs on YouTube, but I think they found out that it really helps with supporting artists as well as the integrity of each group. So anyway, that's it for now.
All right, Kahu.
Yeah, thank you, Tarita. And
looking forward to rebuilding the ancient ruin back to the Lord. So the ancient ruin.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting time, and especially all the folks that we know and we've met here in Oceania, and there's so many more now. You know.
Yes. One last thing too. You know, the rebuilding of the 24/7 or the Tabernacle of David. It's been speak about the 24/7 worshiping. So here on earth as well as in heaven.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
Kahu,
I think people are going to be really surprised who might be sharing. And even if you're just a beginning ministry, don't hang back. Because again, remember, what I learned was that God doesn't look at the dance; He looks at the dancer's heart.
Heart, yes. So. Dance like David dance. One last thing, I would like to see a lot of the youth come out in the next generation or families. I would really, really love to see that happen. And I'm excited. So, yes. So, thank you, Kahu, for allowing us to be on here. Are you going to pray? Yeah? No?
Hey, I just noticed on your YouTube, it says Gerard Tehotu on your name.
I'm probably using Gerard's instead of mine's. Sorry.
Oh, that's why.
My husband just doesn't know it.
Okay.
So I think So I think the phone is mine's and the the computer is his. It's actually his computer.
Well, this is also something new that people are not used to using Zoom, and so I'm trying to teach people how to use Zoom to connect us all in the Pacific as well.
Yeah,
In the
Zoom
world
is
as well.
amazing. Use it for your business. Use it for ministry. It's an amazing tool. Yes,
Yeah.
very,
All
very
right.
productive.
So after this video, I'm gonna put up one of our former PIWAI videos so people can see what we did in the past.
Oh my gosh!
It'll be exciting.
You show the little kids. That would be awesome.
Yeah, maybe I should show that. There's that time when they were doing the Samaritan woman with you.
Well, yeah, it was really neat because when you're looking at the children, I think you posted one with the children then, and you look at what they're doing now. And I'm just on one of our nieces, Tati. Look at her; she's out on the mission field.
Oh my gosh, she's in Amsterdam, huh?
She's in Amsterdam. Whoever thought that she would be out there? I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh! So it's amazing to see all these children that have participated in PIWAI and has gone what God is doing in their lives, and God taking hula with them. They taking hula with them. That torch of carrying Hawaii with them to Europe, now called Beulah.
Yeah.
So yeah, now called Beulah. But yeah, so blessings, Kahu. Aloha o Yesu ya o ame mako ke kai. Aloha.
All right, aloha everyone. Hope to see you online with the PIWAI Huike. God bless. Bye-bye.